In sheet metal working process, there are die sharing operations. So they are very important to understand what are the die sharing operation. Sharing die operations accomplished with die include blanking, piercing, trimming, shaving, notching, lancing, and nibbling. These are called the sharing operations, die sharing operation. In their die sharing operation, there are important operations process, that is your blanking, piercing, trimming, shaving, notching, lancing, and nibbling. Firstly, we discussed that is what is the blanking operation, and there was blanking. Blanking is the operation. There are blanking. Blanking is the operation of cutting flat intermediate shape. Blanking is the operation of the cutting out flat intermediate shape called blank, which are which are further processed to produce desired part. Blanking is the operation of cutting out flat intermediate shapes called blanks, which to be further processed to produce desired parts. And a simple blanking setup as on figure. We see the figure. This is the figure for blanking setup. In their figure, you have seen that there have a punch holder, there have a punch holder, and there have a punch holder, punch. This is the blanking setup diagram. Punch holder, punch, and a metal strip, fastening bolts, die relief angle, stripper, cutting land, die, and also a cut-off blank and bloster plate of the press. This is the blanking setup. In this blanking setup, you have seen that there are a punch holder position, punch की position, metal strip, die relief angle, fastening bolt, stripper, cutting lands, die, cut off blank, bloster plate of the press. In this, the sheet metal from which the blank is to be cut properly located over the die. There is a center line located over the die and punch lowered into the it produce the required cut as per diagram. Neglecting the spring back diagram and neglecting the small amount of spring back that occurs when the shearing force is and removed. The size of the hole made is seen in the size of the punch, while the cut out piece has a size equal to the die opening. Size equal to the die opening. Thus, in a blanking operation, the die opening will made of the required size of the blank, while the punch will be made smaller by the amount equal to the twice the clearance between the punch and the die. This is a remember. Thus, in blanking operation, the die opening will be made of the required size of the blank, while the punch will be made smaller by the amount equal to the twice the clearance between the punch and die. The punch and the die should be made of hard wear resistant material such as a hardened high carbon steel, high chromium die steel, and tungsten carbide, which high carbon steel, high chromium die steel, or tungsten carbide. And also the die is provided with a die relief angle, yeah, draft about 3 by 4 degree, so that the cut pieces falls freely through the die opening, and the actual value of the draft used depends upon the material thickness and shape, may be range up to 2 degree. Then a stripper is provided to release a stripper provided to release the metal from the side of the punch as it rises and after completing the stroke. As shown diagram, the sheet metal strike on the punch due to the spring back. When in this diagram, as shown figure, that is the cutting land stripper, fastening bolts, directly angle, metal strip, cut off blank, close the plate of the other press and there were punch. While planning a blanking operation, it is necessary to provide suitable clearance between the adjacent blank and the edge of the blank and the edge of the strip. While blanking operation, it is necessary to provide suitable clearance between the adjacent blank and the edge of the blank and the edge of the strip. When number of blanks are required to be cut from a given strip of the metal, strip of when number of blanks are required to be cut from a given strip of metal, a proper layout of such blanks may be helpful to determining the maximum utilization of the sheet area. So this is the blanking setup.